Welcome everyone to the IOTA 2020 Defining Moments Meetup. It's that time of year when all of us tend to look back and reflect on how far we've come. The challenges, the heartbreaks and the triumphs, and then to also look forward to what lies ahead. And of all the years, 2020 was one that I think we can all agree was a year we won't soon forget. And now, as 2020 draws to a close, it's also time to look forward to all the great things to come in 2021, but also to reflect on how far we've come. So I have some slides here which should pop up. There we go. So let's look back and reflect on how far we've come. I'm going to go back quite a ways here. There we go. We remember 1969. It's the year that man first landed on the moon, and it marked a time when we all believed that science and technology could solve almost any problem we put our collective minds to. 20 years later, in 1989, the Berlin Wall fell, heralding an era of global connectedness and the falling away of old world thinking that allowed for greater freedom of communication and global interaction. And then just 18 years on from there, in 2007, the Apple iPhone was released, the tiny device that forever changed the internet and transformed our lives in ways we could never have imagined. And now, 13 years later, we reach the end of 2020, a year that nobody could have expected just 12 months ago, and which most people will remember for the COVID-19 pandemic, and the millions of lives lost, and the millions more forever changed. Yet, for all the human suffering and economic disruption, as we reach the end of the year, human ingenuity has produced vaccines in an unprecedented time frame that should eventually allow us to return to some sort of new normal in a world that is changing in other dramatic ways. Just yesterday, Bitcoin broke its previous all-time high, and cryptocurrencies and distributed ledger technology are back in the headlines. The stars seem to be aligned. 2020 has been an incredible year of progress for the IOTA protocol, and 2021 is gearing up to be a defining year for this young but incredibly powerful technology. Today, I'm honored to host this special event. We have a great lineup of speakers who will reflect on the progress of the Foundation to date and the prospects for the future of this world-changing technology that will impact every aspect of our lives as surely as the iPhone did in its time. And so, at the risk of stealing a tagline from David Letterman, my next guest needs absolutely no introduction. So please join me in welcoming Dom Sheena, co-chairman of the board of directors and founder of the IOTA Foundation. Dom, it's a pleasure to have you here with us, especially as I know you must be even busier these days than usual. Will you be making it back to Südtirol in Italy for the holidays this year? Or
Yeah,
you are?
no, first of all, welcome, Terry.
Thank you.
Really great to catch up in this format here. And it's kind of amazing to see the community also be part of this end of the year presentation. So I think
Fantastic.
same as everybody else, I'm also forced into lockdown.
Yep.
And like it makes absolutely no point during these times to actually go back home. So I'll be enjoying my time in Berlin, looking
Okay.
out the clouds and reflecting on the next years.
Cool. No Santa hat.
No, sadly not. I was trying to get my dog to wear a Santa hat, but like with those little dogs, they can be quite feisty, and I don't want to get my hand ruined. So I kind of gave up on that attempt.
Anyway, I wore my reindeer antlers, but more on that in a little while.
No, it's very fitting.
There is a reason for them, but anyway. So why don't you share your perspective on 2020 and give us a sense of what the world of IOTA might look like in 2021? I think we have a large audience, and we can't wait to hear what you have to share with us. So take it away, Dom.
Yeah, of course. Can everybody see my screen? Can you just
Not yet.
confirm it? Yeah?
No,
Great.
we see you.
But you should see the screen.
There we go.
Okay, now you see infinity. Don't worry, I'll go back. So yeah, 2020. I think 2020 was a pretty crazy year for all of us, even to crypto standards, even for people who've been around for quite some time and have been part of this roller coaster. I think 2020 in itself is really a year where we really see this sort of 90% economy coming to fruition. And what I mean with 90% economy is that many of the traditional business models and traditional ways of doing things are really going to be fundamentally changed moving forward. And for one, that means cause for disruption, for cause for new innovative technologies to fill the gap and to really become more new leaders in industries, as we saw with Zoom technologies and as we saw with the entire tech boom. But obviously, it's also a year where we have to reflect on the core social values. And also, who do we thrive for as a community, not just with an IOTA community, but really as a broader community, as a species, right? And I think it's not just about adopting tech at any cost and getting to newer highs within the stock market, or to really get new adoption of AI and so on and so forth, but it's also about answering this fundamental question around at what cost are we adopting these technologies, and how can we actually create technologies that really benefit not just a few shareholders, but really benefit the entire ecosystem around it, that actually help to make the technology great in the first place. And exactly that is why cryptocurrencies and distributed ledgers, and especially IOTA, are so exciting, right? Because it's not just about creating a new technology that is very disruptive, very innovative, and that will really change industries, but it's also about having this collective around it, right? And with this collective, I really mean with people that are driving this change together with us, and that are also going to be benefiting from this change. And I really think that over the coming months and over the coming years, we'll see some very exciting progress happening all around the world in terms of the adoption of DLT technologies and also cryptocurrencies. And I really think that especially larger companies and even governments are getting much, much closer and much more open to being not just friendly towards cryptocurrencies, but also really adopting them. And so just to reflect on this year, right? Overall, with the IOTA Foundation, we had quite a roller coaster in terms of what happened with COVID in February and March, what happened with the price decreases and the stock market crashes and so on and so forth, but also what happened with our team, right? I think fundamentally, over the last 2 years, because of the way that we reorganized the foundation, and because of the way that we are really focused on value creation and being very much impact driven, I would say that we are definitely one of the teams in the DLT space that is one of the most productive, and also one of the teams that really is thriving to, or striving to do a lot, right? We're trying to build the IOTA base ledger. We have to improve it with Chrysalis. Then we are building this new future of IOTA, which is Coordicide. And on top of that, we are building blocks and also getting adoption for it. And all of that obviously requires a big team. And even with the team that we have today, which is around 110 to 120 people, we still have a lot more team members to actually get on board to really achieve our vision. And I think this year in total, we added 24 new team members. So it's very exciting to welcome them in the IOTA Foundation. And I think for next year, we're definitely also aiming to get 20 to 30 more people into the foundation to really focus on all of those new technologies that we have to create, and also really try to really get adoption for IOTA. Now, in terms of the tech releases, fundamentally, we are a research and engineering organization, and the most important duty or also mission of the IOTA Foundation is really to create open source technologies. And I think especially in this year, we've achieved quite a lot. And you can see that on our GitHub with all of the different repositories which are live, which can be seen in terms of the activities that we've had there. Starting with February, when we officially launched the Coordicide AlphaNet, I think that was definitely one of the most important milestones for this year. And since then, we've had a few hundred community members actually participating in the AlphaNet. So that's very exciting how that has been progressing. We've also been very much focused on products, like, for example, Streams and Chronicle. And in addition to that, as some of you might remember, last year we actually announced Hornet at the Berlin meetup. So think about it like that. Only last year Hornet was announced in the community. And it's really proven to be the most scalable, performant, and also the most important core software, node software in IOTA, right? And the Hornet team has really done a tremendous job in further developing it, and also really changing everything with Chrysalis, but we'll talk about that later. And in addition to that, we had IOTA Access, which I'll talk about a little bit more, and also IOTA Identity. So I think the mission of the foundation is pretty clear, right? We have to build the core ledger, the IOTA ledger. We have to make sure that it's very scalable, but that is going to be fully decentralized with Corticide. In addition to that, we have to build these building blocks on top of IOTA to really make sure that when we speak with a large corporate, that they actually are able to really utilize IOTA in the way that they want to, right? Because if you speak with a large company, you don't just tell them like, hey, do you want to adopt IOTA? It's more about the use case where you say, hey, do you want to adopt IOTA for your data integrity use cases, or for your access control of your machinery, or for your digital identity? And that is why this kind of change to actually have building blocks as our adoption strategy was quite an important shift that really helped us to get more companies on board and to also work more closely with them. And as you can see, one other very important milestone for this year was to get Chrysalis onto the mainnet. We started with the first phase of Chrysalis, which went live in August. And there we finally were able to reduce the milestone issuance, which means that you can now get transactions confirmed in about 10 seconds. So comparing that to the previous IOTA, that's a really significant change. And that's also very exciting in terms of the usability of IOTA. But even more important than that was really Chrysalis Part 2, which just went live a few days ago with the official testnet. And the focus there is to get rid of all the bad things of IOTA that were bad design decisions that were technical debt, and to really kind of not just think about what the future of IOTA could look like, but really integrate components of Corticide into the IOTA ledger today already, to really make sure that we have a base protocol that is highly scalable and that really also introduces some standards that are common in the crypto industry, to first of all get more adoption for IOTA, but second of all to also introduce a much smoother transition from the current IOTA towards this future of IOTA with Corticide. And I really encourage all of you to participate in the testnet. I think Dave will talk a little bit more about that afterwards, what the testnet looks like and what this future of IOTA looks like. Most exciting there is definitely reusable addresses, something that you're used to with other cryptos. And now with IOTA, this will really unlock a lot more adoption, especially when it comes to speaking with exchanges or getting large companies to utilize the token itself. So I think that will be very exciting. And once the testnet has been done, and once we've done more audits, we'll definitely get this onto the mainnet, and then really move forward with that. Other than that, Poland, right? The main focus is this sort of Corticide AlphaNet, where we want to test these concepts that research has come up with, implement them, and really together with the community shape this future of IOTA. And I think the Poland testnet has been quite successful so far. I think at the peak we had around 230 to 300 nodes participating in it. Today it's about 120. I think that's really exciting. It just shows how much the community also wants to be part of shaping IOTA and be part of really making sure that we are on the right track. And over the coming weeks, I really think that there will be some very exciting software updates also coming to go shimmer with Mana, so that we really have this sort of access control and rate control. within Corticide, so the community can also test out how this will look like. And I think Mana itself is one of the most exciting concepts when it comes to Corticide. And as I already mentioned, we really had this more product focus. I kind of fucked up the icon here, but that's fine. We really had this product focus this year, where we don't just do like proof of concepts with large companies, but where we really develop these products and as building blocks on top of IOTA as a layer 2 solution, so that we can much easier get IOTA adopted by those large companies. The first one that we launched this year was IOTA Access. So it's like an access and control framework for embedded devices. So IoT machines, where you can really utilize IOTA as this sort of trust anchor to know which device was given access to and revoked access and so on and so forth. And I think IOTA Access will definitely be one of the most important building blocks for us to get an option in the future. Like, think about a decentralized Airbnb where we have a smart lock that runs IOTA Access, and only if you give an IOTA payment, you can actually get access to the room, right? Simple use cases like that are really part of this sharing economy, and where IOTA becomes this building block to enable this sharing economy. Second product that went into alpha this year was Streams, where we have the secure data streams running on IOTA, and with that you can also give access to this data to certain authorized parties. That has been sort of the backbone of some of the supply chain use cases that we've been working on. And the last one, and one of the most exciting ones, is IOTA Identity, right? Even before identity, we've been very much, before IOTA, we've been very much thinking about how can we actually do digital identities with blockchain. And fundamentally, you don't want to do something like running your identity system on a smart contract, right? You actually want to only put the hashes of the data or hashes of the proofs onto the ledger, so that you have these verifiable credentials. And exactly that is what we're trying to achieve with the identity protocol on IOTA, where we're integrating standards like the W3C standards, and making sure that IOTA as a tech stack is leveraged as well and as much as possible. And identity libraries just went live a few weeks ago, and we definitely want to go further with products like, for example, Self. Now, something else very exciting, and Charlie will speak about that, is Firefly. Firefly will definitely be the new gateway towards not just the IOTA community, but really the broader crypto ecosystem. And I think it will be definitely one of the most beautiful and also the most secure wallets in the crypto space. Quickly about adoption, also Holger will talk more about it. When it comes to adoption this year, we've been much more focused on going deep with large companies to really develop a closer partnership with them, so that we really have a sort of product roadmap of where IOTA gets integrated and developed. And in addition to that, we had a very much been focused on grants, and our team has really done a tremendous job in getting multiple grants this year, which for one help fund the IOTA Foundation, but for another really also help us to get IOTA integrated into some large-scale testbeds and large-scale consortia. So those are very exciting numbers in terms of the adoption. Something else that's very important about the financial status, right? And because we are a non-profit foundation in Germany, which is one of the most, I would say, strict countries when it comes to financial regulations, we get audited every year, right? So this year, we've officially done the audit for 2017 and 2018, and we're also finishing up 2019. And that's very exciting for us as a non-profit foundation that operates in the crypto space, because for one, it means that we cannot do things that other foundations can do, like, for example, engage in market making or do pay for conferences and stuff like that, or do anything shady like some others are maybe doing. But it really means that we have to be focused on achieving this mission and vision that we set forth with the IOTA Foundation. And the mission and vision of the IOTA Foundation is always to develop the open source protocol of IOTA, the building blocks, and to also engage with and foster the ecosystem around IOTA. And I think we've really achieved that with the funding of the IOTA Foundation and also with the way that it was spent. So that's definitely one of the proudest achievements as well with the foundation. And so real quick, I'm not sure how much time I have, by the way, but one of the last slides, and we've been thinking about this quite a lot over the last few days, is like, what are the real top 10s in IOTA? Like, what are the most important metrics that we should be looking at when it comes to determining how we've performed this year, and also when it comes to determining how we are going to move forward with IOTA? And I think all of these stats here are really impressive. Like more than 2,200 publications that mentioned IOTA, right? Research papers, and so on. Over 318 patents that uniquely mention IOTA. The Discord community, more than 34,000 members, right? That's absolutely crazy to have so many of you participate in the community. And I can absolutely say that I absolutely love the IOTA community. And it's really like a big family in that regard, where we all focus on achieving the same goal, I would say. More than 100 companies that we're engaging with actively. The IOTA team has grown to more than 110 people. And now when it comes to the tech side, this year we finally also have 2 official core clients, one written in Go, which is Hornet, and one written in Rust, which is B. That will also really help us to make sure that we have this more fault-tolerant network, but also really enables more possibilities for developers to engage with IOTA. So with Chrysalis, that will be really exciting. Another really amazing stat that also shows how much the Hornet team has been doing is how many lines were changed for Chrysalis, right? Over 47,000 lines of code had to be changed to achieve, to completely revamp the Hornet client for Chrysalis. It just really shows that it was a completely new protocol that we're actually developing, or that we have developed with Chrysalis. And it just shows you the magnitude of everything that has been going on behind the scenes. The Go Shimmer testnet has been running very stable over the year. Currently, there are more than 104 nodes live connected, which is also pretty amazing. Another amazing stat is the distributed random number generator. So basically there we have a committee, which is a bunch of community members, and they came together to securely form this DRNG committee. And they're publishing a new random number, I think every 10 seconds or every 5 seconds. And overall, it's been over 1 million random numbers that have been generated so far since it went live a few weeks ago. So that's also a really amazing achievement, because the DRNG is a crucial component of CoreSite, and is also going to be a very exciting component then when it comes to smart contracts like oracles and so on. And the last stat is that we've given out more than 900,000 euros in grants, right? And I think all of these stats really show that IOTA is definitely one of the biggest projects in this space, and that we first of all, we take the tech very seriously. We take the roadmap very seriously that we have in front of us, even though we don't always meet the timelines that we set forth. But all that really fundamentally matters is the end result, and making sure that we are focused on achieving the most important task. And the most important task is exactly this, right? We always say that the next year will be the most amazing, and I can tell you the next year has always been the most amazing, even though we haven't really like achieved the top 3 or have achieved large-scale adoption. We've really proven that over the last few years, every year we've progressively improved, right? And life is all about those compounding steps that you take, those compounding improvements that you make every single day. And I'm really proud of the IOTA Foundation, also the IOTA community, and on how we've led this compounding effect and have really grown to this really big ecosystem. Even though it's not reflected in some stats, I'm very certain that it will be once we make more progress, and once others also realize what we've been working on behind the scenes. And next year, we are really fundamentally focused on making IOTA production ready and making it fully decentralized, right? So the biggest objective for next year is getting Chrysalis out the gates as soon as possible, but also making sure that it's done safely. because getting Chrysalis out will really accelerate the adoption of IOTA, in particular getting listed on more exchanges, working together with infrastructure providers that do like custody solutions for wallets, but also with corporate partners, right? Having reusable addresses, doing EDDSA, and stuff like that is very exciting for the entire IOTA ecosystem. And I'm also very certain that we'll have so many more developers and also community members joining the IOTA community with Chrysalis, right? So that's really the top objective that we have. The second really important objective is Coordicide. Now, one thing that's very exciting about Coordicide is just how significantly it improves the token economics of IOTA, and also what it means in terms of how the protocol is evolving, right? It's no longer about just being this DAG distributed ledger, but it's really about being this digital infrastructure layer, where IOTA can be more compared to the Spectrum, where you with the Spectrum, which is really the backbone of many of the applications that we use today, like radio frequencies or bandwidth access to the internet, and where IOTA is evolving into this meta protocol, and this meta protocol that focuses on one thing and does one thing really, really well, which is transactional settlement, right? How can we secure transactions machine to machine, and how can we settle them as fast as possible, right? And with Coordicide, removing the coordinator, making IOTA fully decentralized, I'm absolutely certain that the IOTA protocol will be one of the most robust and also one of the best protocols out there, if not the best, right? And another important focus point has always been, how can we actually augment or improve the current use cases of IOTA? And exactly that is why smart contracts on IOTA are so exciting. And the way that you can think about smart contracts on IOTA is basically blockchains on top of a DAG, right? Is absolutely fascinating, because what we can enable, because we are this directed acyclic graph, is that every smart contract is its own chain, and it has its own kind of committee. And because of that, it's much more scalable, and it has much less fees than any solutions out there. And especially for next year, we definitely focus more on how can we get more team members on board to develop the solution, and also how can we get an alpha version out to the community within Q1, so that you guys can actually start developing it with us, right? And I think IOTA smart contracts will definitely be this a very exciting bridge from the IOTA network to other networks like Bitcoin or like Ethereum. And overall, these three components coming together are really what make IOTA so exciting for 2021. And overall, I really think that we've come really far over the last few years. But exactly now, sort of everything is coming together, right? And these puzzle pieces, which individually might be very confusing, are now really coming together. And that is why IOTA is really so well positioned at the moment. And that is why many of these discussions that we're having with large partners and also potential ecosystem partners, they really start to understand more about what we've been working on, and sort of this robust roadmap that we have in terms of the development, and also in terms of the maturation of the organization and of the protocol. So with that, I'm very excited for what I'm very proud of what the IOTA Foundation and the team has achieved in 2020, and also especially the community. And I'm absolutely thrilled to go into 2021 with all of you, and to achieve even greater success. Thank you.
Thank you, Dom. That was awesome. I'm sold, and very, very excited about what's to come. You may be interested. I speak for the entire community when I think I tell you how excited we are to see IOTA fully transform after Chrysalis to fulfill your vision. I don't know if you've seen this in a while, but as I was preparing for today's meetup, I came across an old blog post of yours that predates IOTA. It's 2015. Can we
really?
Can we just bring that up on the screen? There we go. So you said at that time that you believe in peer-to-peer technologies that can eradicate barriers and achieve one of your most important goals for the full empowerment of the individual. I think it's fair to say that you're well on your way to achieving that objective, and I just want to personally thank you for your work and your vision and the work of the whole of the IOTA Foundation. It's really quite incredible.
Yeah, no, thank you. I actually have to update that bio. I haven't done that in a long time.
Yeah, and it doesn't have a secure certificate on it, so it's still running HTTP.
It says I'm still living in Citro.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, I thought you might enjoy that. So,
no, that's really great.
Yes. Hi, my name is Dominic Schina, currently living in Sud Tirol, Italy. So, yeah, it was fun.
That's funny.
Anyway, but thank you so much, and it was a great presentation. And
yeah, no, thank you.
All right. So, moving right along. Now we have on our busy agenda Dave DeFita, who will update us on the current status of Chrysalis and the new testnet deployment released just this week. Unfortunately, Dave couldn't join us in person, but he sent us a video recording that we're going to play for you right now. So let's go.
Hey everyone. Thanks for organizing this event and having me here to talk a little bit about last year and the newly released Chrysalis Part 2 testnet. My name is Dave, as you might know, and can you imagine it was not even a year ago that we still used ARI as our main node software, and that we were struggling to get past 20, 30 FPS, TPS without breaking anything. That Hornet was still in beta without any local snapshots, and that Chrysalis wasn't even known. A lot has happened. And while it might not have been a very good year for a lot of people, it has been quite a productive one for the IOTA Foundation. So officially, Chrysalis was meant as an intermediate upgrade of the IOTA protocol before Coordicide. We had a Coordicide document describing all the features of Coordicide with a lot of core changes to the protocol, but a lot of that stuff wasn't really needed for Coordicide itself. It was more of a overall protocol upgrade which could apply to the current network as well. Since we didn't want you to wait for over a year to get Coordicide released, we decided to split this scope up into several parts. So Chrysalis in phase 1 and phase 2 and Coordicide, where Chrysalis phase 1 is basically the low-hanging fruit, the non-protocol breaking changes of the network, which can be done mainly by improving the node software and tip selection and implementing stuff like white flag. Then we have phase 2, which is more thorough and involves protocol breaking changes. And then, of course, in the very end, Coordicide, where we get rid of the coordinator. We mainly choose for this approach because the whole scope of Coordicide was just too big for one big release, and we just didn't want to wait for that. So Chrysalis Part 1, like I said, the non-breaking changes to the core protocol, mainly improving confirmation time, transactions per second, but also confirmation rate. Basically making the network a lot more reliable and faster, going from 20 TPS to hundreds of TPS, and a very fast confirmation time. This already made the IOTA network in its current state with the current libraries and the current protocol a lot more usable as it was before. Released this in the summer, and it was overall quite well received. Chrysalis Phase 2, this is what we just rolled out the testnet for. This is a real challenge, and we still have a bit of work to do before we can call it final. But yeah, the public testnet is just released, and it's looking very promising. Chrysalis Part 2 consists of the protocol breaking major changes to the IOTA protocol, amongst things switching from ternary to binary, which is, in terms of performance, much better for the current binary hardware we are all using. Introducing a new, more standard ED25519 signature scheme that replaces our Wintinet's one-time signature scheme, allowing you to reuse addresses if you wish, but it's also a more commonly known and adopted standard. So that might be useful for people who already have a ED25519 implementation or a ledger integration. We did a completely rewritten, more user-friendly and performant Node API, a new dynamically sized message format deprecating transactions grouped in bundles, completely new Rust-based client libraries designed to be both easy to use and flexible for the more advanced use cases. We are introducing some new wallets, a wallet library, a command line wallet, and the new Firefly wallet, which Charlie will address later on. We introduce secure seed storage to Stronghold. We have a new address format. We have a new seed format. Also a very fancy new shiny dashboard for the Node software, and lots of improvements resulting into a better, more performant, more mature, and more user-friendly IOTA. You can almost say that this is a complete rewrite of the full IOTA core, which is pretty exciting and pretty much a big achievement to pull off within a year. So part of this testnet is a new faucet where you can request testnet tokens, the command line wallet, integration into the Explorer, and the fancy new Node dashboard, which will be the same for both Hornet and B, once B is available on the testnet to use as well. So yeah, we worked very hard to be able to release all these major changes to you in the form of a public testnet before the end of the year. The last weeks have been very chaotic, with lots of us making long days to make sure that it's all ready for you to use. But I think it's all worth it, since you're now able to experiment with and prepare for the pending transition of the current mainnet to this new and shiny new one. So yeah, still a lot of work to be done, but you will see changes on a daily basis. I'm very excited about 2021 and seeing what will happen then. And of course, the release of this into the public. We will not rush this one. We will make sure it's properly audited and completely ready, so that the transition phase for you will be as easy as possible. If you're excited to try it out yourself, feel free to check it out on our latest blog posts. And with that, I want to wish you all the best for 2021, and hopefully we will see an equally or even better year in 2021 for IOTA, as that we had this year. Have a good day.
Awesome. Thanks, Dave. That was amazing and very, very exciting. I'm looking forward to getting my hands on the new wallet. So my next guest is Holger Kötter, IOTA's Director of Partnerships, who's going to provide his own recap of IOTA's numerous achievements this year in forging strong and enduring partnerships with organizations and corporations who will be critical in the adoption of IOTA as an underlying protocol in Industry 4.0 use cases. Holger, it's a pleasure to welcome you to the end of the year meetup. It's been an amazing ride, right up until just yesterday with the announcement of the partnership with Blackpin. So why don't you give us a recap of IOTA's partnership achievements in 2020 and anything you're at liberty to share about what's coming in 2021. Even some hints would be appreciated, but it's all yours.
Thank you, Terry, and thank you very much for organizing everything here. This is quite amazing. So my name is Holger Kötter. I'm leading together with Regine the more customer-facing part of the foundation, and I've prepared some slides with a short extract of what has happened so far in 2020. And you can already see from here. So we are very much diving into a lot of funded projects, what Dominic also has been showing on his slides. So, and these are like always really like larger funded projects together with roughly between 7 and 12, 13, 14 international partners, where we are, and this is now the nice part, where we are really tackling issues which are relevant for adoption. So really needs from those industry partners. So just to give you a bit of insight, the whole InsuranceAct project is about to provide a better integrity and security in the whole retail space. Trademark East Africa is about providing secure trade securely documented trade pipelines. So when you have like essentially a business chain that the company producing flowers, as an example, can really focus on their core business, but then the whole shipping and trading is essentially digitally organized and secured, because like you have so many trade certificates which can be forged along the whole way that the damage which could be done there is quite enormous. You have seen that we have launched Self for digital identity, and since we've launched it, we've also seen like a major ramp up of demand for identity projects, but also for healthcare projects, also aligned with the whole COVID crisis at the moment. For City Exchange, we have been building also with, this one has been going on a bit longer, as you might remember, when you are following IOTA for a bit longer, but we've created a multimodal transportation platform, and also like we've just published like an update on City Exchange as well on energy trading. So like an energy trading marketplace, also with a small hardware module, which can be tried and connected to smart meters. Nido is in Japan. It's about Japanese energy industry aggregating predictive maintenance data together with IOTA as a DLT. So to secure that data directly where it's being generated. And then anonymizing this data and working with artificial intelligence and deep learning to identify certain predictive maintenance patterns. And this will then, of course, help the whole industry, also in Japan, to be more competitive as well against competitors, because they're just aggregating additional data pools while still being anonymous. Then climate check is something what we have been also publishing very recently. Climate check is the Chile landfill monitoring project. So where essentially we have sensors updated with IOTA directly in the plant itself. And this is the very first time that you can really measure from the sensor device the different measurements of the sensor, and essentially ensuring the integrity of these values through the IOTA tangle directly from the source. So you sign these values, you don't need to go through the whole complicated plant IT, where the data could be tampered with essentially, but you can really show this is data, it's coming directly from the sensor, the CO2 output, for example, and this is something quite new. So when you're talking to all the big players in the markets and also to the public sector, this is something what they are very interested in, because again, aggregating data from the source, making it tamper-proof, and then documenting it also tamper-proof. Digit, you have seen it. We also did a press release on this one, is regarding the mining industry and essentially also aggregating data from those mining platforms. Chase is something that we haven't announced yet, where we are developing educational material on a larger scale, so to also integrate IOTA into all of these materials. For Europe from the Erasmus Plus project or program. Some of you, especially when you're coming from Europe, you might know about Erasmus or Erasmus Plus. Then there's one which we haven't announced yet. I think we will announce it this week or beginning of next week. I think in addition, we have one, like a couple more, which we haven't announced yet, where we just recently received the funding confirmation. And then just as an extract to also give you a bit of an understanding what we have been working on over the last 4 quarters. So we did several blog post series, of course, working together with companies. So we've launched a solution partner program. Trademark East Africa was a very big release. We did the whole Future Proof webinar series with over 16,000 views. We launched Tangle EE, so the Enterprise Edition. More InsurerSec, Digital Twin with Pickard, how you can actually build this digital twin. And with digital twin getting so much traction in the industry, there will be certainly a lot more to expect in 2021. Digital twin is also something what you have seen probably with the whole Zebra integration. And just a couple of weeks ago, we worked with the TM Forum on the Catalyst. We received an award for that as well. We had the Smart Urban Innovation webinar also with PROS. Like from a customer-facing point of view, we also supported the the engineering department a bit with the whole Tangle Explorer, with the Pollen GUI wallet, the JavaScript libraries for Chrysalis Phase 2, supported Hornet and the private Tangle, so where you just go on AWS and you make one click, and you can either launch a Hornet node directly with it. We're also planning it for B. But the cool thing is you can also launch a full private Tangle. So when you're a company, you press the button, your server, which you have been renting, it just calculates for 10 hours the Merkle tree, and then you have a full private instance where only you hold the secret keys to, and can start testing it. And all this happens with the press of a button. We signed a couple of strategic partnerships, so this is something also for 2021 more to release. The IOTA course for managers, the digital twin white paper, which eClass has been publishing yesterday. The Blackpin partnership is even not in here. You've probably seen the EDAC webinar, which is also not yet in here. So this is a very short extract, but all of this is essentially coming together when you're looking at 2021 in several mainstreams. So eHealth is going to be a big one for sure. Digital twins is going to be like a very big one. We have new grant projects starting, and I think the nice thing is about all these building blocks coming together is that we are really having partners starting to deploy IOTA more and more in the field. And these are not the proof of concepts which CTOs are doing just to make a checkbox. All right, we have done a blockchain POC, and then it goes directly into the bin. So there was a lot of like 2017, 2018 around that, unfortunately. But this is now going to be about actual in-the-field deployments. So testbeds for mobility, but also where smart energy meters are being deployed directly in the buildings, which are transmitting then through LoRaWAN, for example, certain measurements. And all of this is being now tested in the field as like a pre-step to really build on it in production. So this is now, I think, like 2021 is like a really good year where all the blood, sweat, and tears of the research department, of the development department, of the collaboration with partners is starting to come together, and then ending up into real productive test beds, but also then as the next step in real products where IOTA is being integrated into the enterprise application stack. So I'm very much looking forward to all the Chrysalis developments, to all the developments with partners in the grant application, grant funding as well. Thank you very much for all of your support. We couldn't do it without you. I've seen it. I've put it also in here. Ecosystem is also starting to really build commercially on IOTA. Also just a small extract with a startup landscape, and this has been certainly ramping up. We couldn't do it without you. So thank you very much for your support as well. Everyone who is out there with everything you are doing. I also saw the Christmas song. This is really amazing. So thank you very much. And then Terry, back to you.
Thank you, Holger. It's really quite amazing that you've been able to achieve all of this in such a short time. And I can seriously say it only keeps getting better. So thank you for your time, and thank you for sharing all of that. It's a busy time, and we've got lots more interesting speakers to share with you. So thank you, Holger, and happy holidays to you, and stay safe.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. So following up on Holger's wonderful recap, I'm equally thrilled to welcome the talented and magnificently bearded Antonio Nadella. Now, Antonio, where are you? There he is.
I'm here. Hi,
yes,
Terry.
even more magnificently bearded now than before. I tried growing a beard myself many years ago, but it always looked a bit moth-eaten. Yours looks so full and vibrant. It actually reminds me of the Tangle Explorer visualization, a sort of a beautiful thing for any IOTA community enthusiast to admire. So what do you have to share with the community on the community front, Antonio? Take it away.
Terry, thank you very much for this introduction.
You weren't expecting that, right?
Yeah, come on. I mean, the lockdown is helping, so I cannot get it cut anymore, and it's growing, and it's waiting for the cordyceps to come off. So
Okay.
be ready for that.
Cool.
So we are going to have a look at the defining moments in the IOTA community and the ecosystem. So I'll say we start right away. Terry, catch you later. So first things first, we'll start with some boring data, but I love data. And I really want to reprise what Dom already said. I mean, we have over 34,000 members in our official Discord, where the community meets with the IOTA Foundation, where they discuss different aspects, where they get in touch with like-minded people, participate to initiatives, exchange ideas, build stuff, and have the possibility to clear up doubts and sharing constructive feedback and critique with all of us. We have grown in like 23% from last year, so this is a huge thing. And thanks to our moderators to keep the channels clean and polite, and helping us keeping the community together and welcoming for every other participant. Let's have a look at our personalized networks. Yeah, this is something that I have read somewhere else following another project. So it's not social anymore, it's personalized. So I love that. As you can see, the professional networks like LinkedIn have really grown. We have over 54% plus people joining our professional channels. And similarly, also our YouTube channel has grown to around 37%, where we have published stuff like the open source series, where researchers and developers give insights about what is done behind the scenes, and also our B team holds their weekly development sessions where they develop in Rust and share what they do. So thank you very much for joining our channels. If you have not done so, please connect on different platforms and personalized networks, of course. And lest me forget the important part of our community-driven channels like Telegram, Facebook groups, and Reddit, where also the growth is really palpable. And when we talk about community, I have to talk about the X Teams members, the experienced teams. We have launched this group, these initiatives in May of this year, and we have already 38 engaged X Team members. I mean, these people are bringing their experience. These are passionate community members that are paving the road for IOTA to have the best developer experience in the DLT and IoT space. So heads off and virtual applause to all of you. Thank you very much for joining us. We have already started together 7 different initiatives around B, the client libraries, GoShimmer, IOTA Access, IOTA Streams, IOTA Identity, and the Permanode. So if any one of you would like to know more about these, to exchange your ideas, to have these meetings with IOTA Foundation members, to contribute, please join us in the XT members. Look in our announcement to find the blog, or ping me in Discord and ask me how to join. And we have done this because we have already community members that are building tools, are supporting other community members, are writing blog articles, and we wanted really to give them a space inside our community, and to show them how much they are important for us. More about the X Teams later. Now some information about academia, because let us not forget that we are not only a development, but we are also a research community. And here we have 3 really important research grants that are active in our research community. The first one, and as an Italian, I feel, of course, really excited about this one, is really important for launching cordyceps on the mainnet. So the validating the security and the efficiency of the IOTA 2.0 consensus protocol by the Gruppo Spritz, Security and Privacy Research Group of the University of Padua. Really proud of you guys. I'm really happy to have you in our helping us out and figuring out and supporting this important milestone that will be cordyceps in the mainnet. The second grant is a collaboration that established the Christian Doppler Laboratory around blockchain interoperability and lightweight DLTs in collaboration with Pantos and the Technische Universität Wien in Austria. So also not really far from here. It's 8 hours by car from here. I hope that I will be able to visit them once I have the possibility to visit some friends in Vienna. So this is also really, really a great achievement. And the third grant is our Over the Horizon research for the cellular automata consensus, convergence and modifications. Here we are working with the Blockchain Exploration Research Group, also BERG, from, I'm terribly sorry, I'm going to say this wrong, but I think it's Wrocław, University of Science and Technology in Poland. And they are looking at cellular automata deeply and further to see how this potential module will bring future optimizations to the IOTA protocol. And here we would also like to say that the first and the third one are EDF grants. So as you can see, the EDF, the Ecosystem Development Fund, is really being used wisely to bring IOTA forward, not only technology-wise, but also research-wise. Two really important mentions of these collaborations. The first one is with the Department of Informatics at the University of Oslo around their research in digital trust and detangle. So this is really great for us to be collaborating with academia also in Oslo. And the second one is really important, is the Doctoral Training Center in Trust around cryptography and the third generation blockchain like IOTA at the IT, so the European Institute of Innovation at Napier University of Edinburgh. And when we talk about research, I really wanted to see that we have, to show here that we have around 503, if I remember correctly, academic publications. Like Dom already mentioned, this data is out there, and I would like to invite you to the IOTA archive/academia to see all this information. And what I really want to tell you here is that the IOTA archive is where you can find news, updates, and statistics around the IOTA publications and patents, for example, and is managed by the community and by community submissions. So if you have some news out there, if you're publishing something around IOTA and we do not know about it, this is the place to go. You can publish your submission, you can submit your submission, and then it will be published by the IOTA archive. So please, also, as a community, I invite you to participate in this to help others know more about IOTA and to support the IOTA archive. All right. How about the Ecosystem Development Fund? So we have seen that they funded already 2 research grants. 2 slides really quickly. What is the EDF, the Ecosystem Development Fund? So we provide grants up to 350,000 euros, more or less, for open source projects in software projects, hardware projects, educational content, or reference applications. So if you're going to build a building block that's based on IOTA that might change the course of the ecosystem, that might contribute really strongly, you can submit your request. That will be then evaluated, of course. For this year, we had 46 grants in total with 19 different projects, and we have funded around 900,000 euros in 2020. You can follow every funding in transparency.iota.org, and you can request or submit your request and get more information at fund.iota.org. So now, the most important part of my presentation, actually, the community, projects, and the people, because you define IOTA, you define the course of the action, you are showing us what you got, and we are going to start with something really important. So we have community members, we have teams, startups that are defining this year and that are going to define 2021. So I cannot tell you what's going to happen because it's you that are doing that. So I'm starting with thanking every single IOTA experience team member. I'm not going to say your names, but I really wanted to show your usernames, and I really wanted to thank you with a virtual applause, because that's what we do during Corona, for your really valuable contributions. What you have done so far is really invaluable. I cannot give a price for what you have already done for IOTA and the community so far. So I have cherry-picked some examples because I do not have enough time to talk about everything. I wanted to show these examples here. So the first one is from Ali B. I know he's in Discord. I saw a post in general. So he made a workshop for the iOS Evangelist Network from MAM to streams. So now that MAM is going to be deprecated, there is some support with Chrysalis Part 2, but but try to migrate to streams. This workshop gives a nice idea about for your project to understand how to transition and what is changing from MAM to streams. So this should help you to understand concepts that might ease this transition. So please take a look at it. Absolutely, you can just look at the IN YouTube channel, so IOTA Evangelist Network, or look up from MAM to streams on YouTube, and you should find it. The second one is maybe not known by so many, and is the IOTA Streams flowchart. So we have a community member, Galegoct, that drew the flowchart for streams to understand it better. And with this contribution, he made it clearer for people like me that need visual things to understand how stuff works, and not only hands to communicate. And we have a really nice flowchart there that shows us how it's done. Then, of course, my preferred team, it's the GoShimmer X team. I mean, I'm a node operator since IRI, and I love what we have done so far. And I really wanted to thank the GoShimmer X team that set up with Angelo and is supporting Angelo Capostele in his crazy things about distributed random number generators. And we were able to set up the first community-driven, so the first X-team-driven random number generator. This was not that easy at the beginning, but with their experience, it became much easier to do that. We are using this distributed random number in a committee of distributed nodes, and it's used in combination with the Cordicide module called the fast probabilistic consensus. Don't ask me to get into details. It's not my field, but you can read about it in our blog post. And of course, a special mention goes to Dave and to Dr. Electron that took ownership around DRNG and the DRAND committee, and are now supporting, and they did everything from organizing people, from finding volunteers, setting up nodes, and they're now building the first 100% community-driven committee that is not the X team. And thank you very much for your support there. Then Hoon, of course, already really known community member. He launched by himself, of course, with the support of the IOTA Foundation, the first 100% community-driven initiative of the X team, and that was around IOTA identity. So Hoon, hats off to that. You're really everywhere, and thank you very much for championing this initiative. And before we conclude this part, I really want to thank every X team member out there again for sharing their experience and making tests and testing, for example, the Tangle Explorer. So before it was made public, like with other technologies, we share them with the X team that already know a lot about IOTA and grew already within the IOTA community to help us make these parts of IOTA better. So they tested the Tangle Explorer and also Chrysalis, the testnet. They had some early access to it to give us some really invaluable feedback, as always. So my time is almost up. I will now do a really quick rundown of some projects that I wanted to share with you. And so write down their names and go to visit their websites if you have not done so already. So the first and foremost, before I start, is Society 2 with Ben Royce and their team. Society 2 created a encrypted messenger, so where you can invite people to chat with you. and it's completely web browser based. And I must really say I have forgotten to make a slide for that, so this is why you get the special mention right now. Then we have Pagi. Pagi is Esperanto, so look it up. I forgot the definition, of course, but it is a firmware that enables any device to receive payments, to negotiate price, to issue refunds, and to act as an economic operator. So absolutely go to pagi.io and or Pagi. I'm probably, since Esperanto gets from the Romantic languages, from like Spanish or Portuguese, most probably it's Pagi. But anyway, go and see it for yourself how easy it is to implement Pagi in your use case, and how you can use it to make use as a service a reality. Another really important project out of the community is Freighter, from the same guys of Scali. So Dennis and Peter, heads off to that. It's a grand scale, stateless, decentralized messaging channels system or platform or project. And what I wanted to underline here, of course, go and have a look at it. It's to stream big data, big data, big chunk of information really quickly through the Tangle. And they have recently been added to the request for proposals regarding the object management group platform level special interest group. So we're talking about standardization here. So seeing a community project that stepped up, showed us what they got, and are now being taken in consideration for standardization. I mean, this is just wonderful, and this is why I love this community. So great work, and go on with that, and never stop what you're doing. Great guys. Another really important community project, Daniel Carpincho, thank you very much also for supporting us today with this event, is IoT to Tangle. So IoT to Tangle is a platform, is a hub where you can find open source software to connect and to allow developers to quickly connect their IoT devices. They recently held a hackathon that was really successful. Please have a look at their project. If you have a Raspberry Pi, if you have an ESP32 and you really want to test the Tangle out with IOTA streams quickly without having to understand it, but just uploading the code, starting it, and using it, IoT to Tangle is the go-to project. I'm not a developer and I can use it. So if you're a developer, it is really simple for you to use that. So hop over to their website, iot2tangle.io, and see for yourself how easy it is to create IOTA streams channels with their software. So, and of course, have a look at the winning projects or all the projects that have been submitted to the hackathon, because every single one of them is really is really worth mentioning. But today I really do not have the time, so do it and do your own research on that. Next one, hello IOTA team. Of course, the face is Chris Miller, but it's not just him. So there's a really big and engaged team behind the Hello IOTA. And if you do not really have time to follow all our news, to follow whatever is happening on Discord, chime in and log in and subscribe to the Hello IOTA channel. You get weekly roundups from with our face Chris Miller in English and German, where they try to explain in layman terms what's going on in the IOTA ecosystem. So go there, subscribe, and follow also their blog, where they have really well thought and really insightful articles. Next one, also a project that has been born within the IOTA community. It's Depose. So Depose is going to become a really innovative deposit system that is common in Germany, for example. So a system that is a way to handle plastic waste and fund for bottles. So it's It's really something you should look at. So have a look at it, and you are also warmly invited to contribute to it. So go there and have a look at deposit.org to get more information about that. Then we have this almost unknown project that really caught my eye. It's called JDS, and this is a platform for ideas sharing and validation. So here you can add an idea, add an information, add the blog post. It's also here it's community submission driven, and you can add also your IOTA address. So the nice thing is that if people find your idea interesting or what you have posted interesting, they can give a vote to and bring your idea further up by donating to your address. So it's a really interesting way of using IOTA, and of course all of these projects are powered by IOTA. So this is what's really interesting about them. Have a look at it. It's we-jds.herokuapp.com. So jump over there and have a look at that. And now, last but not least, of course, Dom already mentioned it, but it is the birthday. So we had them last year at a meetup at Berlin. It was officially announced by the Hornet team. So also here, much respect to the Hornet team members in no particular order. So Max, Alex, Sebastian, and Luca, thank you very much, because it has been an incredible year for them. I'm following the discussions in Slack between IOTA Foundation members and the Hornet team, and it's crazy, immensely powerful what they have built so far. And their contribution is what made the Chrysalis testnet really possible this Monday. And so really congratulations, team. Thank you very much for showing us what the community is capable of. And as you can see in the bottom right, it's not powered by IOTA, but it's really powering IOTA right now. So virtual applause. Thank you very much. Confetti for everyone, because it was really great what you have done so far, and it's really an example for the IOTA community and for the ecosystem. So my time is really up. I've gone far enough. Thank you very much for following us. Thank you very much for contributing, and show us what you got. So IOTA community, the 2021 is going to be your year, since Chrysalis is bringing binaries, bringing optimized APIs, UTXO. We are cutting trinary, so it's going to be much easier to build. So it's your time to shine. Show us what is really possible with IOTA. Terry, where are you? My beard is waiting.
I'm here. Well, clearly you lack passion, Antonio. That was amazing stuff. So it's clear that you love the community. The community loves you right on back, as we do for all the members of the IOTA Foundation, because it's the passion that's driving everything forward. So thank you. It was great. I really enjoyed the presentation.
Thank you.
Now, all right. So thank you. Now, speaking of good stuff, this is the season of goodwill and presents, so I wanted to do something seasonal as a sort of holiday contest for today's meetup. As many of you know, I'm working on a coffee cup recycling project that is based on IOTA as the deposit, refund, and accountability layer for a sustainable circular economy. So I was looking for a way to combine those passions, and I think I came up with it. So I've created these IOTA latte stencils. You can put me on as well, because I'll show pictures of them. Here we are. So they look like this. They're fantastic for decorating your favorite beverage with the IOTA logo using chocolate powder or ground cinnamon or nutmeg or any other edible powder, and they make a perfect conversation starter when you're relaxing with friends and colleagues, of course, after you get out of lockdown. So they're made from food-grade mylar, and I'm giving one away to each of the first 5 community members who can correctly answer my Christmas riddle. Now, we're all familiar with the story of Santa and his sleigh. That's why I'm wearing the reindeer gear here. And of course, Santa's sleigh was pulled by magical reindeer, and the most famous of those reindeer was Rudolph, the one with the very shiny nose. Now, it seems to me that there are many parallels between IOTA and poor Rudolph. You see, Rudolph wasn't like all the other reindeer. Think DAG versus blockchain. And they used to laugh at poor old Rudolph and call him names, just like some of those blockchain enthusiasts who laugh at IOTA. They won't let us play in their crypto games like Pump and Dump or that old favorite ERC20 ICO. And then one day, of course, Rudolph saved the day by lighting the way for Santa's sleigh, and he achieved the respect of his peers that he had always deserved. Well, this is the year, and all you little crypto kiddies who've been hodling IOTA for the last 3 or 4 years can expect some nice presents under the tree. And so this year, instead of a reindeer with a shiny nose, Santa's sleigh will be lit by a cute little insect with the brightest light in the whole crypto universe at the tip of his abdomen. So what's all this got to do with the contest, you ask? Well, all you need to do to win is to send me your Discord handle together with the names of all 9 of Santa's reindeer, plus the name of the incredibly bright insect that has given its name to the new IOTA wallet. And to win, you simply need to send your answers to this IOTA receive address. You'll see the address is also posted in the YouTube chat. Now, I'm going to mail one of these IOTA coffee stencils to the first 5 fully correct answers, and because all entries will be recorded on the public Tangle, anyone will be able to verify who provided the correct answers first, and the entire process will be public and immutable. There's no need for a large public accounting firm here because the entire system provides its own audit trail, or in this case, an audit tail. So please don't include your email or your mailing address on your transaction. I'll contact the winners privately on Discord to get that information. The easiest way to do this is going to be to use Trinity, perhaps for the last time before it gets replaced by our beautiful new IOTA wallet after Chrysalis Part 2 is released to the mainnet. So scan the QR code on the screen, copy the address from the comments area of YouTube where it's been pasted, and remember, no personal information other than your Discord handle and the 10 names to answer the riddle. And for those of you who don't already know the name of the new IOTA wallet, it now gives me great pleasure to introduce our next presenter, Charlie Varley, who's going to update us on, you guessed it, the new IOTA wallet for the next IOTA network transformation, as we fulfill the second half of the Chrysalis evolution to the ultimate transition to a full coordinator-free Tangle. Charlie, as Hanukkah, the Festival of Lights, builds to its final days, perhaps you can light up our lives by illuminating us all about the progress of the beautiful new IOTA wallet. Take it away, Charlie.
Thank you, Terry. I'm loving the festive cheer that you brought tonight.
Well, you got to have fun with this stuff, right?
You do. Cool. So my name is Charlie. I'm a senior software engineer at the IOTA Foundation. I am the lead of the wallet team, which means that I oversee the development of Trinity and now Firefly. I also help to manage the client library development and wallet library development, as well as helping to coordinate Chrysalis. So, in our industry, everyone wants mass adoption. We want our friends and our family to understand what it is about this new technology that is so exciting, what it is about this crazy internet money that is so useful. It still remains a very abstract concept for most people. You know, it's Bitcoin, it's blockchain, it's IOTA, it's gibberish ultimately. And in my view, one of the main reasons why this is the case is that no one has really perfected the main consumer-facing use case. You know, Bitcoin was originally devised as a peer-to-peer electronic cash, but it ended up not really meeting the requirements of scalability, low fees, and speed. And what you need is an underlying protocol that actually supports peer-to-peer payments. And if you think about IOTA at a very basic level, it's almost perfect. So IOTA is feeless and near instant. And that is a very powerful concept. It's the ability to send any amount anywhere in the world to anyone, and for it to arrive near instantly and not pay a fee in doing so. And I'm sure that's one of the main reasons why many of us are even interested in IOTA in the first place. So with that base protocol, we now have Chrysalis. Chrysalis further refines the usability of the IOTA protocol and perfects it as a peer-to-peer payments protocol, among other things. We introduce features like reusable addresses and 24-word mnemonics, and strip away the complexity while also improving the performance. But a protocol alone is not sufficient for achieving this intended goal of a digital cash. You also need some form of consumer-facing app. And in my mind, no one in crypto has really managed to build the level of consumer-facing peer-to-peer payments app that you need. And that is the ultimate goal of Firefly, our new upcoming wallet, to build that exceptional peer-to-peer payments app and realize IOTA's potential as a digital currency. So Firefly has been in development for the last 6 months or so, but it's been informed by 3+ years over the last 3+ years period. We've been learning many things that have informed this app. Firefly is going to be the face of Chrysalis when we launch early in the new year, and in the future it will gradually become this platform for any of the new developments within the IOTA ecosystem. So why a new wallet? Why not Trinity, you may be asking. It's important to know that Firefly is a completely new app and shares none of its code with Trinity. If we think about the history of Trinity, it starts to become clear why we wanted to build Firefly. So Trinity was built for IOTA 1.0. It successfully made Winternet's one-time signatures safe for human use. However, as we've mentioned, IOTA 1.5 is coming quite soon. And this represents a complete overhaul in the IOTA protocol. If you were to strip out all of the transaction logic from Trinity, you would be left with nothing more than an empty UI shell. If you couple this with the fact that Trinity as an app and as a code base is not very expandable or scalable, and you add in the fact that Trinity as a product was branded against IOTA 1.0, its etymology stems from trinary, the number system that we're removing with the move to Chrysalis, you start to realize why it makes sense to build an app from scratch. So what is the plan for Firefly going forwards? So we have this big idea of creating a platform, a platform within the IOTA ecosystem. It's the entry point for vast majority of consumers to become acquainted with IOTA. And you're not going to be able to successfully build one of these platform style apps if you do not have a robust core. So our focus as a team has been to perfect that core, both from a technical and usability point of view. The plan is to begin first with desktop before proceeding to mobile, and have a similar but refined feature set when compared to Trinity. So pretty much all areas of the app have been reviewed, and we've made improvements to the underlying technical architecture and the usability, all of those different components from setup to sending transactions to settings. We've added a few new features like profiles and accounts to allow multiple users to use the same app on the same device. We've removed some of the cumbersome limitations of Trinity, such as long passwords to log in. You can now enter a PIN to enter Firefly, which is both more secure and allows greater accessibility to the wallet. We've also added state backup, so you're no longer reliant on the tangle where nodes are constantly snapshotting transactions in order to retain a transaction history. So over the last couple of years, we've been doing various different experiments with different apps. We built, for example, the Spark wallet. We built the Selv digital health passport. And we learned a lot about what would be the most appropriate technical stack for the new wallet. So moving away from the stack of Trinity, we are now using Svelte and Electron on desktop and Svelte and Capacitor on mobile. And we have completely redone the app core in Rust. So I'm going to talk a little bit about two of the core libraries involved in Firefly that really allow the app to function. So Wallet RS is the first one. This is a Rust-based wallet library. And what this is really a one-stop shop for all the functionality you would need to create a wallet in IOTA. You know, it's a very easy to use library that's responsible for all of the core logic in Firefly together with Stronghold, and allows you to do all of those necessary functionalities required to build wallets, from creating and managing accounts to sending tokens, generating addresses, monitoring those accounts for new transactions, etc. And this is really going to enable any use case that requires payment integration within the IOTA ecosystem, from exchanges to wallets to, you know, you may have a gambling app that requires a wallet functionality within it. Any payment-based app will leverage this library. And just to give an indication of how easy it is to use, Lucas, one of the devs on the wallet team, managed to build an entire wallet, a CLI wallet, which you can see on the right, in a matter of hours. And it provides all of the tooling you need to build these sorts of wallet applications. You know, it also has a state adapter, which allows you to log your state either into Stronghold or SQLite. And if you compare this library to what we've traditionally had in IOTA, the difference is stark. You know, with IOTA 1.0, you needed to pull together 6 very complex, esoteric functions, get transactions to approve, complete proof of work in order to send a transaction. It's complicated for developers. Whereas, you know, with this new wallet library, you can simply call a send function with an address and a value, and you're good to go. I know that Rust is a complex language and a little opaque to a lot of people. I myself am a front-end dev. I don't know Rust. So you'll be pleased to know that we have the interests of other devs in mind. We've already built Neon bindings to Node.js, which is really quite a simple way to use the library. You know, you just add an npm package, import the functions, and you're good to go. And based on feedback from the community, we'll gradually add additional support for other languages. One of the ones planned in the near term is Python. So the other core component of Firefly that I wanted to talk about is Stronghold. Stronghold is a Rust-based secrets library. It's basically an isolated part of memory that allows you to conduct cryptographic operations and handle cryptographic secrets in a secure manner. If you think about a Ledger Nano, for example, which separates the context from your computer by putting everything on a hardware device, Stronghold is effectively a library that provides that functionality. You know, all of the sensitive operations like generating addresses, signing transactions, etc., can happen in Stronghold, and then Stronghold can be stored anywhere. So you could have an active Stronghold on a hardware device, for example, just like Ledger operates. So it's designed to seamlessly interact with Wallet RS. You know, if you instantiate a Wallet RS instance, you can hook into a Stronghold and have everything ready to go through that. But it's not tightly coupled in that if you don't want to use Stronghold, you don't have to. Now, the main reason for building Stronghold was that, you know, if you're building applications with value transfer within them, or even data transfer, you need to handle cryptographic secrets. You need to handle seeds. And as soon as any serious amount of value or personal information is involved, you need to ensure that those secrets are safe. And previously within the IOTA community and even in the wider crypto community, you end up with loads of different custom implementations and custom encryption schemas and all of this kind of stuff. And you're bound to make mistakes as a developer. So Stronghold's meant to be a one-stop shop for that sort of functionality. And again, like Wallet RS, we're adding support for various different languages like Node.js and Python. So we're building this platform app. We're building this entry point to the IOTA ecosystem going forwards. We are perfecting the core. We're ensuring that it's very robust and expandable. What are the next steps from that point on? I'm talking more about Chrysalis launch onwards. if you look at wallets within the DLT ecosystem, they are increasingly becoming platforms. They're a portal to their respective DLT and provide all sorts of functions and are basically the main entry point for consumers. In order to fulfill that vision of creating this platform for the IOTA ecosystem, this exceptional peer-to-peer payments app, you need to create an expandable architecture. So one of the first things we're doing with Firefly after having completed the desktop and mobile versions, possibly also in parallel, is building this plugin architecture. It's something we've put some work into already. And the idea here is that you basically just create a load of different building blocks, a load of different puzzle pieces for the different use cases within IOTA. So the first target for the plugin architecture is the introduction of contacts and chat. So I think that contacts is a very, contact system, sending money directly to a friend as opposed to copy pasting an address is something that is essential if we want to create an effective payment system. You need to have parity with what is currently available in conventional finance. PayPal allows you to send money to a contact, and if we don't have that, we're never going to be able to compete with those sorts of solutions. So with this plugin architecture, we intend to build a contact system. Now, something that is a little more contentious is chat. People are like, why do I need a chat in my wallet? And it's a very good point. However, what we're basically doing here is we're creating a load of different tools and functions to enable future use cases in IOTA. If you think about the ultimate vision of IOTA, some of the things we always talk about, decentralized marketplaces, data marketplaces, those inherently require communication. And transactions at a fundamental level require communication. In the example, in this mock-up of the future Firefly version, someone's asking, can you send me that IOTA you owe me? It requires some form of conversation. And the idea with chat as a plugin is that you will enable future use cases like decentralized marketplaces and other things. And with this plugin architecture, it's going to be fully opt-in and opt-out. So if you have no interest in that sort of functionality, you don't need to enable it, and you can just have a very basic, pure wallet. So another important feature that we see in the future is securely purchasing IOTA within the wallet. It's all very well if you have this exceptional peer-to-peer payments app, but if you don't have an on-ramp that allows you to purchase IOTA as a currency, the whole thing is useless. And then from there, we're looking at future protocol additions within the next year. We have colored coins and tokenized assets, which are extremely popular use cases within the community. Representing a real world asset on the Tangle is a very exciting use case. And that is going to be something that we're going to add at the very core of Firefly so that you can manage your colored coins, you can manage your tokenized assets. And then beyond that, we have so many more interesting things that can be added to the wallet. Identity, for example, if you are transacting with another party, you need to ensure that you can validate that they are who they say they are. Things like mana delegation, pledging mana to node owners in the future Quarter-side IOTA is something you probably want to do from your wallet. And then smart contracts, which enable a host of use cases and all sorts of interesting things. So hopefully that gives you a good background on why we are building Firefly, what we have planned. I'm incredibly proud of what we're building, and I'm really excited to get it out in the open. So big shout out to all of the design and development team for Firefly. You've done a really amazing job. Obviously, if anyone has any questions about Firefly, about the libraries, or just wants to have a chat, then feel free to reach out to me. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Outstanding. Thank you, Charlie. That was absolutely fantastic and very, very exciting. I'm really looking forward to getting my hands on Firefly. So thank you. Now, several of you may have noticed that despite my promise that the receive address for this contest would be posted in the YouTube chat, it seems that multiple people have been trying to paste that, and it won't go. For some reason or other, the YouTube chat is filtering that out. So if you'd still like to enter, just use your phone and scan that QR code. I don't think anybody's going to write down the address there by hand, but just scan the QR code and you should be in good shape. So while Charlie was delivering his presentation, we were all holding our breath at the back end because Hans Moog, who was supposed to be talking to us about coordicide, was actually held up in traffic, and he literally got home about 30 seconds ago, and so we've all breathed a huge collective sigh of relief to know that he's actually going to be with us. And so it gives me enormous pleasure to welcome to our meetup the one and only Hans Moog, King of the North, Lord Commander of the Night's Watch and Protector of the Realm, and soon Slayer of the Coordinator. Hans, if you're there.
Yeah, do you guys hear me? I don't know. I don't know if you see me also.
We see.
I have to set up the camera.
No, we see you. We're looking up. We've got the up the nostril view at the moment, but we do see you.
I just had to place it here. I didn't have much time.
No, that's okay. Listen, I'm just thrilled that you made it. So, and I
was very stressed.
I hope there weren't too many injured pedestrians and dead reindeer left along your path.
No people in the way.
So, Hans, I defer to you. Tell us about Coordicide in 2021. We're all waiting to hear.
I'm actually, I've been thinking about what to talk about today. I mean, Jakub talked to me last week if I would say something about Coordicide, but considering that we don't have so much time, we can't really go that much into detail. So I was thinking about giving a short summary, which I call the history of consensus in the path to Coordicide, which allows us to compare the different existing Coordicide mechanisms that are out there in the wild and kind of compare IOTA to everything else that exists. Because time and time again, I hear people stating things like, oh, look at this project. They have been also using a DAG and they delivered a year ago, or they are working already. And it's kind of an unfair comparison because we are trying to build a solution that doesn't exist yet and that doesn't build on existing principles. And I think having this comparison and having an understanding of the history of consensus and how these different mechanisms compare when they evolved and what are their properties makes it much easier to understand this differentiation. So how do I switch to my slides, or is it already?
They're already there.
Ah, they're already there. Okay,
yes.
Perfect.
You're in good hands here, Hans.
Perfect. So before I actually start talking about the consensus-related stuff, I want to just recap some basic terminology that's going to play a big part in classifying and developing this mental model or this framework for analyzing different consensus mechanisms. And the most important part of this is that I want to talk about, because it's a very important thing, is the types of communication used in consensus protocols or peer-to-peer networks. And there's essentially two kinds of communication that are currently used. One is even based on the other. And the first one is a point-to-point communications where nodes are directly connected to other nodes. That's essentially the kind of communication that you usually are very familiar to when you play online games. You have a client that connects to a server. You have, if you stream a video or something, at home you have a TV that connects to a server and downloads the stuff. And the pros of this approach is that it's very fast, and nodes can exchange individual messages with specific peers and also get a replay. It's essentially like having a phone call with your grandma, for example. She picks up, you dial her number. In computer networks, that would be the IP address. The other computer picks up, and then you can talk to each other, and it goes usually very fast. The delay is usually in the realm of a few milliseconds, like 50 milliseconds, maybe 100 milliseconds. But the problem with this point-to-point communication is that it doesn't scale with large networks. So if you have a network of, let's say, 10,000 nodes, for example, and you would have to connect to each and every one of them to exchange messages with the whole network and send every message that you want to send to the network to each and every individual node, then this wouldn't scale. I mean, you can just imagine having 10,000 phone calls at the same time. It's just very hard to do. So then people came up with a gossip protocol, which is essentially a very simple mechanism where every node has a fixed set of neighbors. In IOTA, we're currently using 8 in the outer pairing, for example. And whenever you receive a message, you recursively forward the message to your neighbors. So that means you can send a message to the whole network just by sending a single message to all of your neighbors. And then they send this message to their neighbors, and then they send this message to their neighbors. And the pros of this approach is that it scales extremely well with large networks. Because it exponentially scales. Like if I send it to 8 people, then 8 people have received it. If these 8 people send it to another 8 people, then 64 have received it. They do the same, then you have 512 people, and it just scales very fast. It's slightly slower than the point-to-point communication, which kind of makes sense because it goes over multiple hubs, but it's still relatively fast. The cons, however, are that you cannot send individual messages to specific peers. Like you can only replicate all the incoming messages that you are receiving. This is just like the basis. I think most people are most probably already familiar with these concepts and have an understanding of these two different forms of communication, but I just want to summarize that. So now let's talk about consensus in the times before Bitcoin. A lot of people actually think that consensus has only appeared with Bitcoin or with the invention of blockchain. But in fact, there has been a pretty long line of research, which I usually call classical or legacy consensus mechanisms, that have been worked on since the 80s, essentially, like even before. But in 1989, the first version of such a classical consensus algorithm was released by Leslie Lamport. It was called Paxos, but there's also other ones like practical Byzantine fault-tolerant algorithms and stuff like that. And they usually work by considering the opinions of all validators. And the validators have a direct connection to each other, so they use this point-to-point communication, and they query each other for their opinion. And these protocols are usually very complex. They consist of multiple rounds. Whenever the nodes want to agree on a certain value, they first propose a value, then they commit to something, they vote, and it's pretty complex. But I don't want to go too much into detail. The point really here is that they are using a point-to-point communication protocol between the network, between the validators, and the confirmation times for these classical consensus mechanisms are extremely fast. And you even have a mathematically provable security. So they have very good properties. So the question is, why did DLT never happen before? Why did we require blockchain to really kick off this decentralization movement? And the reason is pretty simple. Because they're using this point-to-point communication mechanism between all the validators, you can only have a few dozen validators. And you also need to know all the validators that are taking part in the network. And so it essentially needs to be permissioned. And that was always a problem. Like you couldn't build a network like a blockchain with tens of thousands of nodes or like IOTA with these kind of consensus mechanisms. And for a very long time, for nearly 30 years, it looked like there was no solution to this problem. So nobody really saw a way to get around this problem. Everybody was assuming that to reach consensus, you would need to have these kind of point-to-point communication between the validators. And the only deployment of these kind of algorithms essentially was an enterprise environment when you had like distributed databases, where you had a few machines distributed over different countries, and then you wanted to have them synchronized. And there was no solution to this. And then something happened. In 2008, Satoshi Nakamoto released his Bitcoin white paper, which introduced a completely new consensus mechanism, which used a data structure, the blockchain, which was interestingly not even invented by Satoshi Nakamoto, but by Stuart W. Harbour and W. Scott Stornetta, I think, in 1991. And even the proof of work mechanism used to select the leader was also not invented by Satoshi. So he kind of just took interesting ideas from other people and combined them in a new way and created something really extraordinary. And the way he solved the problem was really simple. Like, it was strikingly simple. The solution for the scalability was that instead of considering the opinions of all validators at all times, you only consider the opinion of a single block producer. Okay, and these block producers are creating messages that contain the new transactions that are supposed to be added to the ledger, but they also contain a reference to the previous block. And this is a vote, because they're essentially reinforcing the statements of previous block producers. So even a blockchain is essentially a voting mechanism, but the voting mechanism is virtual voting. So there's no additional message overhead for the validators or the nodes exchanging their opinions, but the opinion itself is denoted in the data structure of the blockchain. And this small little change allowed the protocol to now use the gossip protocol, because everybody was just downloading the same blockchain, and the opinions could be read from the data structure itself, which solved the problem of the network size limitation and even made the network open and permissionless. And the only downside of this approach is that the confirmation times are relatively slow. Like, nowadays, modern blockchains achieve a little bit higher confirmation times already. But the problem with blockchain is that all the blocks need to reference each other, though. So they need to be issued one after the other, which means that if you issue blocks too fast after each other, then it might happen that somebody issues a new block before he has seen the previous one. And if you actually decrease the time even further and you produce blocks really fast after each other, then the whole consensus mechanism breaks down. So you will always be limited by these delays between the consecutive blocks, and the confirmation times are relatively slow. And there's also another problem with blockchains, which IOTA is trying to solve. I'm just mentioning these problems now because it's also kind of a motivation of why we're even doing IOTA. And this problem is that if you have the waiting time between the blocks, then the machine or the nodes are essentially not doing much between these between the times that they receive a block. So most of the time, the machines are actually idle, and they waste precious resource and computational resources that they could use on validating transactions. So this was essentially the basic idea of Satoshi Nakamoto, to not consider all opinions of all nodes, but only a single node, and to persist the opinion in the data structure itself, which I call virtual voting. It's essentially a term coined by Hashgraph at some point, but I think it's kind of a nice word for describing what is actually going on. And based on these this comparison, we can already build like I have prepared here a little graphic. We can separate the consensus mechanisms according to the kind of voting mechanism they use. So if the voting mechanism uses point-to-point communication where the validators query each other, or if the consensus mechanism uses voting in the form of virtual voting and uses gossip as a communication mechanism. And for a really long time, we only had these two. So we have a single validator, which produces the blocks, the voting mechanisms, virtual voting, form of communication is gossip. We have unlimited validators, but the confirmation time is slow. So what the bad aspects of the protocol I've painted in red here, so it's kind of obvious what are the drawbacks and what are the pros and what are the cons. And classical consensus, I have the same features here. It considers all validators' opinion. The voting mechanism is direct connection where the validators query each other, and the network size is limited to a few dozen validators. But the confirmation times are really fast, and it's provably secure. And as I said, for a long time, these were the only two communication mechanisms. And I'm not going to talk about IOTA right now, because essentially IOTA started to work on another one much earlier than the one that I'm going to name next. But if we all know that the first implementation and the first version of IOTA was kind of broken, so I consider that we are actually right now working on the actual one. And I will talk about another one first. So then Hashgraph came along, and there was a lot of hype about Hashgraph. And Hashgraph was considered to be the blockchain killer. And everybody was assuming like, oh my God, they have so fast confirmation times. They have much more throughput. But if we look at Hashgraph, then we see that Hashgraph essentially only took one of the ideas of Satoshi Nakamoto, namely the one of using virtual voting, where you take the votes of the validators and put them in a data structure, and then can read the votes from the DAG that they were using. But the problem is that if you still consider the opinion of all validators, then you're still limited to a network size of a few hundred validators, and you're still permissioned. And that's essentially the problem why Hashgraph never really took off, because they essentially optimized classical consensus. They didn't really find a new and better way of doing consensus. They just optimized the message overhead of classical consensus. So instead of just having a few dozen validators, they can now have a few hundred. But as soon as you go above that number, you will have massive problems because it's still too much information that needs to be distributed in the network. And as we know, with IOTA, our vision is to create a network where we can have like hundreds of thousands, millions, maybe even at some point billions of nodes. This would never have been an option. So then the question is, what is the third alternative that is not really covered yet? And the third alternative is the ground in between. So that means instead of having to consider the opinion of all validators, you could consider the opinion of a subset of validators. Okay, and that's essentially what Avalanche does. It's like they are kind of similar in a way to IOTA, but we will see that they are not really similar. And they are considering a subset of validators. So instead of taking the opinion of all validators, they randomly select a few validators from all the ones that exist. They query them, and then they go for the majority opinion, and they have a point-to-point communication protocol. So we have direct queries between these validators, and that actually creates a bit of a problem in certain scenarios. Because if the weight of the validators is uneven, so you have some nodes that have much bigger weight than others, then those nodes will be queried by way more nodes and much more often than if the weight would be completely even. So if you assume a network where the weight of all the validators is completely even, then it can work. I mean, you still have the message overhead of sending these extra messages, but at least it's going to work to a certain degree. But if we think about a network of like hundreds of thousands of nodes, what IOTA is trying to build, then this would most probably create some serious problems. Because if you have some sensors, then these sensors will not have a lot of reputation. They might not have a lot of mana, but they still need to get the information about which transaction to use if there is a conflict. So Avalanche cannot really be used for the vision that we are envisioning. And now we're finally coming to the little square that is still missing. I mean, there's another one missing up here, but that isn't really covered, and that is what IOTA is currently trying to build. And we are essentially doing the same thing as Avalanche, but we are using a data structure in the background which is similar to the blockchain, but it's based on a DAG. We call this thing the parallel reality-based ledger state, and it allows us to use the data structure itself to encode the votes and the opinions. And FPC in its vanilla version, as it was described in the white paper, was essentially working very similar to Avalanche, but we have kind of changed or gone away from this and now make the large mana holders issue statements in the Tangle so that we can use this virtual voting mechanism. And Multiverse is anyway going even a little bit further. There the nodes don't even make specialized statements anymore, but the transactions itself confirm two other transactions and therefore are already votes. This is essentially the original vision of IOTA, I would say. And we see that this is the only approach in this space that doesn't have any trade-offs. We are considering the subset of validators. We have a virtual voting, which means that there's essentially zero overhead for the voting. The messages itself are the votes already. We can use the gossip communication protocol, which scales to an unlimited network size independently of how the weight in the network is distributed. Like, it doesn't matter if there's a single validator or if there's like hundreds of thousands of them. And we can still have the relatively fast confirmation times because we don't have to wait between issuing confirmations by new transactions that are piling up on top of previous transactions. And then, of course, there's this version up here, but that doesn't really make sense. If you have a large network and everybody would query with a point-to-point connection, a single validator, then this validator would not be able to serve a lot of computers. It's just like a completely pointless approach. And interestingly, I think that this kind of concept makes it much clearer and makes it much much easier to understand what we're actually working on and how these different consensus mechanisms are laid out than, for example, comparing things like DPoS or proof of stake or proof of work, because those things are essentially just a way to select a leader. Like proof of work, for example, you solve a cryptographic puzzle to be the leader. In proof of stake, you have a certain amount of funds to be a leader. In delegated proof of stake, you can receive stake from other people, and depending on how much you have a bigger chance of becoming the leader. But the consensus mechanism itself is Nakamoto consensus or longest chain wins consensus. And I think it makes it much clearer, and I'm always a bit taken aback when I see that people like use these terms and compare them, and then they say to IOTA like, but you're just DPoS, or you're just like proof of stake, or you're just like this. It's a completely pointless argument, because it completely ignores the fact that we're using these virtual voting mechanisms. We try to reduce the message overhead as much as possible, because if you want to build a feeless protocol, then there's no room for trade-offs. Okay, like other protocols, if you have, like here, for example, Avalanche. I mean, there has been some discussions in their Discord, for example, where they have discussed that if the weight is so uneven that this might be a problem, then they said like, yeah, but then the validators just run more nodes. I mean, of course you can do that. And if you if you receive fees for being a validator, then there might even be an incentive to do exactly that, because you want to be able to serve all the requests. But if you want to build a feeless protocol, then it simply doesn't work. And to be honest, I am very gloomy about DLT in general when it comes to the future, if it doesn't manage to be better than existing systems. And existing systems have become so easy to use and so fast that there's not much room to be better. And to be honest, the only real use case where I think that DLT can be better than centralized systems is to be feeless, because it's a monetary system that is run by everybody together, because everybody together has the same interest of being able to send money in a trustless way. And being feeless would really be a huge benefit for DLT, and it would give it the chance to actually be an actual competitor with the actual system, with the current system, because currently DLT is only interesting for investment purposes. It's a store of value, but it's not a medium of exchange. And that's what is really missing for mass adoption. And that's what we're working on. And the reason why we are taking so long to build the system is exactly that we are reinventing a data structure like the blockchain, but on a DAG that allows us to do the same things as blockchain, but without the drawbacks of blockchain. And the interesting thing is that we are like one of the reasons why blockchains are so predominant in the space is that it gives you a lot of flexibility and freedom to design the system. You can build proof of work blockchains, you can build permission blockchains, you can build proof of stake blockchains, you can build VDF blockchains, you can build semi-permission blockchains, you can build all kinds of variants. And the same thing would, for example, be true with multiverse. You could also build all of these kind of different DAG-based systems just using the same kind of mechanisms and data structures that we are currently working on. So it gives you the same amount of flexibility. And I think that's one of the reasons why I think that we are actually building one of the best DLTs that you could possibly ever build. There's no system that could ever be better than a message overhead of 0. And I mean, we have all the squares covered, and I think that's the defining aspects of these consensus mechanisms, because every consensus mechanism ultimately is voting, and you only have these options. And we are kind of filling the spot that is currently blank. So that's essentially it. I hope people were able to follow. I've been talking a lot. If there are any questions, I will also be around in the voice and Discord now for a while. And yes.
That is awesome. What happened to my background? My background vanished. How odd. Anyway, I think it's because the sun came out and changed my green. Anyway, Hans, thank you. That was absolutely awesome. I want to thank you. You obviously are very optimistic about 2021, and I can't thank you enough for that recap, because I think it really does provide perspective that for all of those people who are impatient about when IOTA and when it's going to happen and when Core decide. I remember growing up, my mum was always surrounded by her kids yelling, when's dinner, when's dinner? And she would always say, when it's ready, I'll put it on the table and I'll call you. Until then, get on with your life. So, so it's clear. Oh, there we are. You see, I'm fading back into view. So, snow scene. So it's clear it's coming. It's clear we're on the right path and that we are, to put it bluntly, in good hands. So, thank you. Now, for everybody who has been with us for the 2 hours that we've been going, which has been quite a marathon, I am here to let you know that there will be a Q&A that continues in the Discord voice channel, and you're welcome to join us there. Several of the contributors from today will be waiting for you, and we'll be happy to have conversations. But before we go, I would like to say a special thank you. And the special thank you is, to Felix Reichert from IOTA Shops and Hoon from Einfach IOTA, Antonio Nardella from the IOTA Foundation, who's responsible for community engagement, Danielle de Michela from IEN, and the entire IOTA community. Special shout outs on a personal level to Chris from Hello IOTA. Chris, you rock our world, and we thank you for all you do every week. I know my Saturdays would not be the same without you, although my wife does not necessarily share my enthusiasm. And Vrom, who helped promote and make this event real today. And finally, on a personal note, I couldn't let the moment go by without wishing David Sønstebø the very best of luck, health, happiness, and good fortune for 2021. And for all of you who have joined us here today, thank you for taking 2 hours out of your day. We hope you found it informative and useful. Join us on the Discord voice channel. I've already received quite a few submissions for the contest, so thank you for that. I wish you all health, happiness, stay safe, stay warm, Happy New Year, happy holidays, and here's to an amazing 2021 with IOTA. Thank you.